Hi everyone, hello again. It's me, Ethan, here with another Beats Hobble video. Today we're going to be we're going to be continuing the information element series and taking a look at information dichotomies. It's been a little bit since the last one. It's been like a month. I promise, the uploads are not going to be once a month. This is not to lend itself to the entirety of my excuse, but I was a little addicted to Elden Ring. I'm still addicted to it, but I'm gonna get this video out because I want to finish this series. So you can hopefully count on the videos coming a little bit sooner. But if you're watching later, that's not a big issue, obviously. So today we're just going to be continuing. If you had watched my previous series on the Brain's Journey channel, then you'll know that I went from the introduction to information elements right into the information elements. And on this channel, I think I'm not going to take the same approach. I'm going to slowly build up our understanding of the information elements. Remember, last time I said they were modalities of the mind, like senses, but in response to different categories of perception. So in order to build up to that, we're going to be talking about the different parts and pieces of our perception and the different parts and pieces of our motivations. And eventually we're going to see those things combined in the information elements. And if I do it like that, hopefully it should make even more sense than it did before. But before we do all of that, before we do all that combining nonsense, we have to start with this. We have to start with the boring stuff. I know that you may think this is the boring stuff. I uploaded these videos that were similar to this after I finished the information elements series, and they got like really low views. So, but I promise this is really important stuff, and I'll try to keep it as interesting as possible. Okay, so we have 3 different information dichotomies to take a look at today. We have rational, irrational, internal and external, and abstract, involved. So what do I mean by a dichotomy? If you don't really know, a dichotomy is just a way of separating one thing into 2 halves. So today we're just going to be taking a look at the 3 different ways that we can separate our conscious experience into 2 different sections. And if that doesn't make any sense, again, we'll take a look. We can start right now with irrational and rational. So what I mean by that isn't necessarily that there's like a rational, sensible part of your conscious experience and an irrational, though some people may feel like they have 2 selves inside. Rational irrational just refers to a dichotomy that in other circles is called perception versus judgment. And that is pretty much what it is, but we're not going to call it that. We're going to call it what the Russian socionists called it. So irrational information is directly perceived information. So everything that you can take in, like I can see this room right now, I can see everything in the room. That's all irrational information because it's directly perceived. Rational information is the opposite. It's what happens when we take our directly perceived information and evaluate and interpret something. We don't necessarily have to have sense data to do that with, but just for the sake of example, that's how I'm illustrating it. Rational information is evaluated and interpreted. There's another distinction here. As you can see, irrational information describes things, and rational information prescribes things, or gives orders, makes into ordered segments, etc., etc. So as you can see, following from those definitions, irrational information is the things that we sense or imagine. That pretty much encapsulates all of it. So everything that you can think of is irrational, everything that you can imagine in your head, and everything that you can perceive in the world is irrational as well. Rational information is the opposite, is what we reason or sentimentalize. So as you can kind of notice that, for example, when you tell somebody to do something, or when you say something, or when you recognize something, or when you put some boundaries on something, that's not within the realm of what you're perceiving. You're putting order on certain perceptions, perhaps. So again, through reasoning, we can do that. We can make our senses into mathematical things, like the theories of physics. Or we can sentimentalize things, like we can associate attitudes with the things that we perceive. So in that way, rational information isn't directly what we perceive, but the sort of order and structure that we put on different things. So yeah, just another analogy, we have irrational information being what is, was, or could be. So again, everything that is descriptive, everything that describes things. And rational information is what should be. So you can see the leap there versus what actually exists and what should exist, or what's moral, or what's right or wrong. That's all within the domain of rational information as opposed to irrational information. And then I just have some examples here to get your mind going. Objects are irrational, they just exist. Possibilities, we can see the potential possibilities, those are just things that could exist, like what could be, the example there. Outcomes, things that actually happen. Experiences, things that happen to us, and etc. You can come up with any example you want, and obviously if you need any clarification, you can go to the comments, obviously ask questions. Is this irrational? Is this rational? And I'll do my best to provide you with a decent answer, a decent comprehensive answer for that. And then for examples for rational pieces of information, we have obligations, things that you're expected to do. Emotions, things that you feel inside. Now note how the feeling itself might be irrational, but the emotion and quality that you ascribe to the feeling is rational information. So in that way, emotions are mostly rational. Structures, so things that are built up, ordered sets. Methods, heuristics that we employ to deal with the world. So yeah, that's irrational, rational. And hopefully that made some sense, just directly perceived versus interpreted information. This is going to be a very useful dichotomy. This is going to come up quite a bit as we go on, so do your best to remember it. And the next dichotomy is internal and external. So I'll make a cut here. All right, back with dichotomy number 2. This is the second way of splitting our information or our conscious experience into two different halves. So here we have internal information versus external information. Internal information is inferred. We have to make sort of a mental leap to create or associate it, whereas external information is just demonstrable. It can be pointed to, it can be proven. Internal information is a matter of subjective interpretation. So take, for example, your emotions. Let's say I'm angry. Nobody can look at your emotions and be like, no, you're not angry. But well, how do you know? You know, it's all subjective. It's all what's happening inside. It's internal. Whereas external information is observed to be the case. It would be more valid to say, like, oh, I see a red ball over there. And then somebody could be like, no, you're crazy. You have schizophrenia. That can be observed. That can be shown to be the case that somebody is hallucinating. Whereas somebody doesn't like hallucinate their own emotions. How could you demonstrate that? So that's the clear difference between internal and external, is that it's like subjective versus objective is sort of a way that you could think about it. Yeah, so internal information is different for each person. You can't reach into somebody's mind and like see what they're imagining, see what they're feeling, all of these different things that are going on inside of them, because the internal information is going to be unique to each person. Whereas the external information can be taught or shown directly. Like if somebody puts a math equation on the board, it can be shown, like, or a proof or something. They can show other people how the proof was formulated. They can show the exact steps that were used to come to the proof. Somebody can't tell you the exact steps that your emotions went through or the exact things that you imagined. So the external information can be taught or shown directly. And so for internal information, the comprehensive overview of internal information is everything that can be imagined or sentimentalized, whereas external information is everything that can be sensed or reasoned. So if you notice from the last one, over here last time with irrational, we had sensed or imagined. And over here we had reasoned or sentimentalized. So we've just swapped a couple. now we have imagined and sentimentalized, and sensed and reasoned. And you'll notice that in the next one too. We'll swap it again. If you don't know why I'm doing this, and you don't know how this makes sense, then stay tuned for the next video where I'm going to blow your mind. But if you already know this, then, just sit back and see if you can learn something new here. So yeah, I feel like that's a pretty comprehensive overview of internal, external. It's just, internal is just what's happening inside of you, and external is what appears to be happening out in the world. So I'm going to come back with dichotomy number 3. All right, we're back to look at the third dichotomy, the third information dichotomy, which is abstract versus involved. So abstract information versus involved information. Abstract information is global information. So any information that escapes or is higher than the current context or environment of what's currently happening. Whereas involved information is the local information. It is what's happening. It is the information that's present in the environment around us. So because of that, abstract information can only be conceptualized mentally. It's only what's happening inside of your head. And a lot of people think that, whatever is happening in your head, you can make it a reality. And maybe that's a nice metaphor, but obviously that doesn't actually happen. Okay, I mean, some people would have you believe that, but Socionics would say that there's a pretty clear distinction, pretty clear contrast between the things that are conceptualized mentally and experienced by us viscerally. So yeah, abstract information is removed from us. It has no direct effect. I mean, you can't write a math equation on the board and, it jumps out and scares you. I mean, maybe that's how some people feel about it, but that doesn't actually happen. I mean, somebody takes the math from their head, whatever they were thinking, and puts it on the board. And only then, once it's put on the board, does it become involved? Does it have an effect on us? But maybe an easier way to think about the having an effect thing is if you go to a play or you go to a concert or a theater performance and it moves you. It brings you to tears. Obviously, that would be involved information. That would be having an effect on you. It's local. It's part of the environment, as well as anything that will actually have an effect on you, like something that will hurt you or injure you. That's obviously involved as well. And abstract information, obviously, of course, it has no direct effect, but things that are abstract, like anxieties or fears, can have indirect impacts on us. But that's not the same thing as involved information having a direct impact on us. So the comprehensive definitions or the comprehensive, overviews of abstract and involved is abstract being what can be imagined or reasoned. So you can see we did another swap again. And involved information, what can be sensed or sentimentalized. So yeah, that's abstract involved. Hopefully, again, like all the others, that was an easy one to follow. In the next video, we're going to be combining all 3 of these dichotomies into one grouping that's called the Jungian mandala. So if you already know what that is, pretty cool. If you don't, then stay tuned. You'll learn a lot. And for anybody who's just newly encountering these dichotomies, it would be a nice exercise to go out and see if you can sort of analyze the world around you according to these dichotomies. So if you go to the store, where you could see what's abstract and what's involved, what's internal and what's external, what's irrational and what's rational about, what's happening around you. I think that would help to get a strong grounding of these dichotomies and to help cement them in your understanding for future videos. Of course, you don't have to do that. You don't have to follow anything that I do. I don't really care. But if you want to do it, I think it would help out a lot for the next video and any future videos. So I hope I was able to keep that interesting enough. I hope I was able to delineate that well. I was able to explain it well enough. And yeah, now you know what are the 3 ways that you can divide your conscious experience up. And yeah, the next time we'll be talking about the Jungian mandala. So hopefully you're excited for that, and I will see you in the next video.